What if we witnessed a gold price that was far higher, say $5,000 and then $10,000? Eventually, you may find yourself in a situation where selling gold is subject to a huge excise tax, thus putting the precious metal outside of our blockchain system. Blockchain does not always refer to Bitcoin, because blockchain technology would eventually reveal the Federal Reserve for what it really is, a corrupt and ineffective institution. It follows that the Fed or a successor will adopt it. Another analogy would be a blockchain with a closed loop. Plus, selling the gold would put it back into the Fed coin system, where it would be subject to arbitrary tax rates. For example, you may sell the gold for a certain price for this period and then put it back into the system. Many investors are just now starting to understand the manner in which digital oversight, taxation, and control are converging in the financial world. There is a growing sense of urgency over the connection between a completely centralized blockchain-based system and conventional assets like gold and silver, as the possibility of digital currencies issued by central banks becomes more imminent. The technology would allow for the tracking, monitoring, and taxation of all capital movements. Outside of it, tangible assets may become both more valuable and more difficult to trade with. Author, EB investor, writer, and veteran precious metals expert. Tucker has been outspoken on this danger. He came up with the term FedCoin to represent a blockchain system that is regulated centrally and operates in a closed loop years ago. This solution would eradicate tax evasion and counterfeiting, unlike decentralized cryptocurrencies, but it would also remove financial privacy. According to Tucker, this kind of regime would be reminiscent of the stringent policies of the 1930s in that it could subject owners of real gold to high excise fees or forced redemption at a set price. Tucker also highlights the pragmatic aspects of metals investing. Rather than speculating, he has maintained a concentration on gold and silver due to their inherent qualities and tenacity during times of turmoil. Rather of following hype, his method stresses the significance of slow accumulation and patience. A new way of thinking about wealth protection is required as central banks approach full digital control. Here are the excerpts from EB, the interview with Tucker. Please subscribe to our channel, click the bell symbol to get timely updates, and watch the video before we continue with this discussion. You do realize that gold has done quite well? It would require like an armored warehouse to keep all the silver in, so at some point I just started buying gold instead. However, there will come a time when these things will no longer be transferable. Plus, the gold price is currently at about 25 trillion. That is, assuming the world's gold could be valued. That may go up a notch. As you'll see in a little, folks are starting to move into it as a kind of self-defense, which is driving up its price. Why should they take precautions? Having a Fed coin is, well, pretty self-explanatory. I came up with the name Fed coin in the year 2000, maybe around the 15th or 16th. Holy cow, it was like way too early. That is an additional issue with writing reports and publications. It's non-fiction, so it's obviously a tremendous error. If you want to be a writer, you should start with fiction. That's a lot more convenient to hide behind. However, I brought up the idea of Fed coin because a closed-loop blockchain will be in place. And what's going to happen is that the monetary regime will be extremely transparent, making it impossible for anyone to engage in tax evasion or counterfeiting. What does that mean for the price of gold? My guess is that it will cause gold's price to skyrocket, but I can't say for sure. Additionally, gold will be extremely valuable, yet difficult to sell. And the general public wonders how on earth that could be feasible. Now let's pretend this is a hypothetical situation. What if we witnessed a gold price that was far higher, say $5,000 and then $10,000? Eventually, you may find yourself in a situation where selling gold is subject to a huge excise tax, thus putting the precious metal outside of our blockchain system. Blockchain does not always refer to Bitcoin. Because blockchain technology will eventually reveal the Federal Reserve for what it really is, a corrupt and ineffective institution, the Fed or a successor to it would be able to use it. Another analogy would be a blockchain with a closed loop. What makes Bitcoin so intriguing is that it functions similarly to a distributed ledger. Thus, All of the Fed coins would be recorded in a single ledger, and a centrally controlled Watson computer would track their whereabouts and serial numbers in an endlessly controllable manner. Attempting to sell the gold would involve reintroducing it into the Fed coin system, leaving you vulnerable to any tax rate you desire. For example, you may sell the gold for a certain price for this period and then put it back into the system. This seems familiar, doesn't it? In the 1930s, was this the last time something happened? Do you see any disturbing parallels? It would be like a computerized version of FDR's speech, you know? People will start to realize, wow, this is actually feasible after they see this. The thing that really gets under my skin is when they proceed to ask, how can I make money from this? As for these capitalists, I believe Lenin was correct. The capitalists will be threatening to hang me. Is the rope a viable source of income for me? Can you understand me? You need to take a step back and look at the broader picture. You don't have to try to make money off of every possible outcome. Basically, I would buy a small amount of metal every time. I mean, I just gradually acquired metal over the course of 20 years or more. And all I did was listen to what others had to say. And they appear to be furious or something. They require a monumental means to achieve a return that will alter the course of their lives. And I'm thinking, wow, I could write an entire book on this. You'll find it to be fairly simple. The system is designed to continuously grow, with the added feature of random panic attacks where users are sent tumbling down an elevator shaft. I don't get how you can miss this, therefore I'm telling you to get up quick because it all comes back to that. Plus, they'll inevitably point out that it's simple for them to say, I would say you're wealthy, like you have no idea how wealthy I am. To begin with, what really constitutes wealth? Really, it all depends on who you ask. To be honest, I believe it to be a mental condition. I mean, I'm kind of busy enough to do anything I want. Plus, my desires are totally individual. That sum of money might not be sufficient for another person. I am uncertain. For some, it could be overwhelming. Sorry, I'm confused. I just gradually acquired some silver because, for one, I thought it was really cool. I mean, I visited some mines that produce silver. The subject of silver was quite enlightening to me. The antimicrobial qualities of silver were something I picked up on, you know. It's only that I have a passing interest in that sort of thing. So I gradually acquired some silver. This silver was mine. As a result, silver is now worth more than $40. I must now locate all of the silver. Not everything is here. Thus, I have made every effort to locate it. Plus, I'm looking forward to selling it eventually. Maybe not immediately, but after it reaches $50, maybe people will take notice. However, silver is far behind. Plus, the silver people explain it in a way that baffles me. In this market, where items like vaults can command exorbitant prices, it's hard to tell what they appreciate about it. From $50, it's like 20%. You know, it's slightly more than a doubling here to $100. Plus, it's like impossible to locate everything. There are so many backyards that I can explore. No way, I have no idea what happened to all this material. As someone who has been purchasing these items for quite some time, I can tell you that it is entertaining to go searching for your treasure. Just because I thought it was cool is all? Some people just don't get it, Jeremy. Most of the time, when you buy something with the expectation that its value will rise, it ends up falling. You know, you buy something because you think it's so cool, and then its price goes up. And I simply believe that, to me, right now in my life, I'm just like everyone else. I'm just observing your every move and word. After that, I'm just going by sight when I make a call. It also appears to be a really simple way to earn money. There won't be a perfectly timed statement about the move toward a centrally managed digital money system. Rather, it will arise in reaction to opposition with consequences meant to compel compliance. Punitive actions such as excise taxes or legal limits could be enforced against individuals who try to operate outside of the system. This would be a modern take on laws from bygone ages, but with a very different digital twist. Keep in mind that these designs adhere to a formula. The current monetary regime is a digital replay of FDR's, with increased surveillance and less wiggle space, just like the original had in the past. Concurrently, the significance of conventional banks is diminishing. They are inefficient, slow, and falling farther and further behind the way money moves in today's economy. As the Federal Reserve System ages into irrelevantness, the future of the system is illuminated by stable coinage, quick transfers, and digital trains. Such changes serve as a sobering reminder that no system lasts forever. At some point, one thing gives way to another, changes its form, or even consumes it. Now we may return to the interview. In my opinion, it's not set in stone. In my opinion, the problem would arise if individuals attempted to avoid working with FedCoin. That would set things off. So it's not like they announce the excise tax as happening on a certain date. I believe that the day will come when you can offer individuals a chance to become lawful owners of gold, if they start to bury, conceal, and operate outside of the FedCoin framework. There is an excise charge of about 90% that you will have to pay if you do not acquire gold through the proper channels. In addition to all these other forms of punishment that involve the loss of your gold, for being misbehaving school children, you were told that was reserved for governments. You won't be able to use it. It's exclusively for other governments. All right, I see. That's the kind of message. The messaging is plain to see. When I was a youngster, I recall thinking, what the fuck is the point of algebra? My dad is a genius, He insisted that everyone should study the equation and understand its inner workings. Once you do, you'll notice that the equation applies to many aspects of life. Problems in life would be easy for you to solve. To be honest, I had no idea what he meant, but it turns out he was correct. Thus, it is possible to observe this procedure. For example, what is the formula for FDR? Since everyone who was alive as an adult back then has passed away, looking back is a piece of cake. There were children, and maybe there are some elderly individuals. Put aside your feelings and look at the equation. Then there's the digital equivalent of it, the present scenario. Oh, I see. So, you're saying that the difficulty in using FedCoin as a control mechanism is due to people hiding their money in gold. It will dictate every aspect of your life, all right? Clearly, money is the center of attention for all Americans. They also tend to hoard money and have an unhealthy obsession with wealth. Wealthy folks nevertheless feel like they're short on something. My go-to Morgan Stanley guy always tells me not to quit my job. Since writing the Tucker letter is something I enjoy doing, isn't it? You should be putting in more hours, that man says. I don't see the point in working. You might be able to afford more. The question is, how would I spend additional cash? Something I enjoy doing eventually happens. It is completely illogical. People's minds are malfunctioning. The result is a culture that is preoccupied with making money. I won't call it greedy because, personally, I don't see greed as a negative trait. Plus, I don't see money as terrible either. It's only that certain people can't control their actions and have compulsive behaviors. Once you take a step back and realize this is the direction things are going, your role will change accordingly. Living in the here and now, keeping playing the game, knowing it's a game, seeing where it's going and not being scared of it because there's no stopping where it's going becomes your job. And the world unquestionably continues to spin. Additionally, change is an opportunity for growth and survival. Okay, listen up. 1935 was not the year the world came to a halt, and things are only going to heat up from here on out. Get on board with it. Embrace the flow. If you pay attention, though, you can have a better time. It was a different era when you started this Fed, so keep that in mind. And these days, banks aren't cool. All right, so what exactly are the uses for stable coins? This is the initial intent of the Federal Reserve, to keep an eye on stable coins. Banks are also no longer involved. Going to the bank is more annoying than trying to turn on your water at the county office, if you've been there recently. Seriously, it's a huge pain. You can see that banks are completely irrelevant to the new system and are hence completely irrelevant to the system as a whole. That is why I believe the Federal Reserve will eventually collapse. The main commercial banks own it practically. In the meanwhile, the actions of the government, namely the elected executive branch, are quite reasonable, as you are the one with the power to choose these individuals. Also, get angry if you're unhappy with these people. This is a common occurrence in various branches of government. By the way, Bernanke published this, and it's called the virtuous circle. It ought not to be front page news, but it is. The government is aware of this.